Keep going.
Okay. I understand why I was let go now, almost a year later, but at the time, I was absolutely devastated. But then I got over that because then it was Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and there were a lot of presents, so it distracted me a little bit. I think people felt bad for me too because I had a really good Christmas. But then after that, it wasn't really very much fun. So yeah, I had surgery, and then that whole week, my parents had to move a bed downstairs for me. We cleaned out my dad's office and turned it into my bedroom. And I went from living on my own in an apartment by myself downtown Philadelphia to having my mom have to help me go to the bathroom and have to give me a bath. And I couldn't get upstairs by myself. I couldn't have my foot below my heart for the first 2 weeks of surgery for more than like a minute because my toes would turn purple and it would throb and swell. It was so painful. I would just wake up screaming for more pain medicine because I was in so much pain. And I don't really remember very much about that week, other than that I was in a lot of pain and I was sending some weird text messages, like really weird. And I took a weird string of selfies where my eyes were like that, but I'm just really happy that week's over. So then I was non-weight bearing and I was in like a fiberglass cast for 6.5 weeks. Then I got my boot back, and I learned how to walk in a boot again, which I thought when I was out of the cast that I'd at least be able to walk in a boot the first day. And it took me about 3 weeks to walk again with the boot on. So I was still on crutches with my boot for a little while, and then I couldn't take my boot off at all because the screw had to cross my joint, so if I moved my foot, it would have gone like that. It just messed the whole thing up. There were a couple times that I fell down and thought I messed up my surgery. Really traumatic. I had a knee scooter and it was really fun. I like made it really cute and I got a little kid's bicycle belt, but every time I'd fall you just hear the bell go ding and I'd be on the ground. And it's funny now, I can laugh about it now, but I couldn't get up and I was home alone a lot because my parents had to work, and my mom would pack me a lunch and put it next to the couch, but then I'd like try to get up to go to the bathroom or something and I'd like trip on the rug and just fall down and like be laying on the ground crying until someone could help me. It was really bad. I needed that, like, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. I really needed that button. So I got my boot back, sorry, fast forward. I got my boot back and I still couldn't like take a normal shower. I had to put this awful raincoat over my boot to take a shower because I couldn't take my boot off. I had to sleep in a special shoe. At first, when I got my cast off, my foot was so sensitive to everything that I couldn't even put a regular sock on. I had to put this like heinous white tube hospital thing on, and my mom would be putting it on and I'd be crying because I had like everything was so sensitive because for 6 weeks my foot was like this and it wasn't touched and like my foot had just like had a very traumatic experience. I couldn't wiggle my toes. I thought I was paralyzed because the screw was in it, which wasn't very comforting for a ballerina. And my calf was so small. It was like the size of my arm because I had lost all my muscle and it was really not cute. So I went, was in the boot, loving life with 2 hands again. It was great. I learned how to drive. Because I had been away from home for so long, I didn't need to know how to drive. Except the only place I went was Pilates. I did online college classes on the couch. I did 7 classes, so now I'm a sophomore with what I had before, which I guess is nice. And I went to Pilates, and so I learned how to drive myself to Pilates. I was so scared to drive in a straight line down the road, but now I'm an adult now, so I can do it. And I went to physical therapy. But that didn't start until my screw came out, and I got a CT scan in March to find out if my bone graft had healed, to see if I could get the screw out and start rehabbing my foot back to hopefully get back to ballet. And something bizarre happened. I was supposed to have my results within 3 days of that CT scan, and I didn't get my results until 4 weeks, and it was awful. I would just sit by my phone every single day with it on loud. I would take it everywhere with me. I would sleep with it on loud because I was waiting for the doctor to call and tell me either your foot's healed and you can get back to ballet, or something happened, it's not healed the way it needs to be. Like, I just didn't know. Like, the fate of my foot, when the fate of my career was lying in that phone call. And it never came, ever. And I kept calling them back, and they told me 4 different times when they were going to call, and they didn't. And so finally, I went into the doctor's office one morning. I looked at the receptionist, and I was like, I'm here to get my CT scan results, and I'm not going to leave until you give them to me. I was probably a little bit nicer than that, but I was like, I was serious. She was probably afraid. And then that morning, I went, so then they were like, okay, and I got seen really fast, and the assistant walked in and said, your foot's healed, you're getting your screw removed on Friday. That was a Monday. And I started crying because I was so happy, because that meant that I was going to get to start the hard work back into ballet, which the waiting part was really hard, like emotionally, just because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't like exercise. I mean, I could do Pilates, but which was good, but like other than that, I couldn't do anything. And I didn't have any friends at home because I had left home for so long. My boyfriend was across the country. I was home alone all day long. It was bad. So then I had surgery to get the screw out, and that surgery was way better than the other one. I was out and about the next day. But I couldn't walk until my stitches had healed, which ended up being another like 2 weeks. And so then I got out of my boot the middle of May, and I was in my boot for 7 months. And in 2 days, I will finally have been back in 2 shoes for the same amount of time that I was in my boot for, but I'm still, I have been in 2 shoes for less time than I was boot girl. Let's see, so I had the surgery, I had the screw out, and then I remember a couple days after surgery, I took my boot off, and I tried to take a couple steps, and I started crying again because I was really excited, because I didn't know if I was going to walk again, because I hadn't walked in about 5 months. So I took 10 steps, and I didn't have enough muscle to keep going after that, and my foot was just really sore, and I was really scared, and it was so weak, and didn't have the range of motion to move or anything. So yeah, I was able to like walk a little bit more each day, and that was pretty cool. And then I started ballet like really quickly after I started walking. Like I was still in my boot when I started doing a few ballet things. I would take my boot off and like do plies, and then I have to put it back on. But I had to do a ballet bar at home every night for 6 weeks before I was allowed in the ballet studio, which was horrible because I had lost everything, including my calf. So I didn't have enough muscle to even do anything, and I had to be really slow about how I progressed into everything. And that was the hardest part about all of this, was being really bad at ballet, because when you go from being at such a high level of something and being so like elite at something that you do, and then having to start like below the bottom with like one leg with muscle and the other leg that's like really bony and can't help you at all, and like knowing what you were capable of, and then just having to like look at yourself in the mirror and realize how awful you are now is really difficult. But I just kept telling myself that like I just had to keep going, and every day, like at first it wasn't fun. Like yeah, I was dancing again, but it was awful.
There's someone in the background. Keep going.
Okay, I have to go see.
Wait, hold on. Let me start it over because